Hello, everyone. My name is Travis Brown. I am the principal of Farras Academy Charter School. We're located in the Longwood section of the Bronx. We are a charter school that services primarily the Community School District 12, Longwood section of the Bronx. Again, we are one of the a unique school because we are a K to 12 school. So I like to say if anyone messes the kids up, we don't have anyone to blame because they don't go to anybody else but us. So we get them in kindergarten and we graduate them and try to get them into amazing colleges. We're unapologetic about serving Bronx kids, and we're unapologetic about really what we call high expectations, but also high engagement. We separate ourselves from many other charter schools that you may hear about. We don't walk in straight lines. We don't over discipline our kids. They're kids. And I think we can really have high expectations for our young people, but we can also let them be young people and grow up and mess up. And I think they'll be all right. So that's what we kind of add to the charter school landscape. We're not trying to get, no disrespect to other charter schools, but we don't push our kids to slant and be quiet in hallways, and we don't suspend our kids when they mess up. We actually want them to mess up because we believe that's when we teach in.
Travis Brown, I just want to say that I cannot wait to visit your school. I had the opportunity to see some pictures of your school building,
Yeah.
and what a beauty. I couldn't believe what I saw.
So thank you. But one of the things, I know that's always the first thing. One of the things that we do is we are a Department of Education authorized charter school. So we're not a SUNY authorized charter school, and we make sure that we don't take any fundraising dollars. We do it all off the per pupil dollar, and all the vendors that we use are DOE contract vendors. Because my background is New York City Department of Education. So what I wanted to do was, when I used to be a principal in District 5, actually, me and Fia Davis were in the same building. She was really an inspiration for me in terms of being a principal. But when I came over to the charter, I said I still want to make sure that I can be a proof point not only for charter schools but for also district schools, because again, we can't charter our way out of public education. And that's what I'm very clear about. And charters were designed to be incubator spaces. So we just want to be a collaborative space that other people can learn from, because I steal everything. So we want people to steal from us also. So the challenge, I came to the school in 2005, 2015. So again, we're a K-12 charter school. We're in a Longwood section of the Bronx. 700 students, 450 of them in the K-8, 250 in 9 and 12, and we had a lot of problems. We had 200 suspensions in grades K to 8. A lot of the suspensions were at the K to 3 level, 150 suspensions at the high school level in a year, and we only had 250 students. There was a 60% graduation rate, and the ELA math and ELA numbers were in the teens, and there was a lot of racial issues, and they were about to shut the school down. So when I first came in, I said, "What did I get myself into?" Because they were about to shut the school down in about a year. So So my approach was, I focused on what I found in my time when I worked with other schools and other school principals. We see bad data and we just want to jump at it. What I did was I sat in the data for a while and really thought about, it's not the data. Data is a byproduct of just bad planning. So the first thing I did was I looked for positive deviance in the area. I needed to find people that were servicing black and brown kids really well and just really out there crushing it. And like I said, with Fia Davis being wrong and strong, I realized that I didn't know a lot about different things of school. So I had to hire really smart people and hire them fast. And the last thing I'll say before I jump in, one of the big things is I didn't care what anybody said. I really think black and brown kids are no different from any other kids. They could learn anything. Reading is man-made, so they can learn it. Mathematics is natural, so they can learn it. So when we talk about no excuse, I am a no excuse charter from the standpoint of there's no excuses why our kids can't learn, why the adults in the building can't be better. So that was kind of my thinking as we went into this. So I'm going to show you the results, and then we're going to jump into the stuff. So over the last 3 years, we had 90% graduation rate. We've been ranked by U.S. News 76th best public high school in New York City, 13th in the Bronx. We've had 0 suspensions in 3 years. Um, and not only are we getting kids in colleges, we're getting kids in really selective schools. So we had a kid for the first time get into MIT. We had a bunch of kids get into Cornell. the list goes on and on. And it's not to brag, it's just to show that when we talk about Black and brown excellence, our kids, we have kids that go to technical schools, all that, but we also can get kids into the places that they're normally not in. So we just I wanted to highlight that because sometimes people say, well, we need to change the game or the game is not fair for our kids. We know the game is not fair. There's structural things, but I just feel like I have the keys to the car and we need to really drive and make sure our kids have access to all the places, whether it's a technical school, whether it's an Ivy League school. And we've been able to do that over the last 3 years.
Were you the founding principal there, or did you follow another leader and kind of transformed it on your own?
Yeah, great question. It opened in 2005, and I joined 2015. So the elementary school had 11 principals in about that span. So yeah, I was brought in to turn it around. I was with Pitts, and then I saw this opportunity, and I came over because it was a blank canvas, and the building looked strange, and I said, and the one thing my mentor, she told me, she said, go in there and tell the board that you need control. So it's the first time I didn't even like interview. I took charge. I said, look, you got to give me 7 years. If you give me 7 years, I'm gonna show you something that you've never seen before. I promise you. So I'm going into year 7. So, so hopefully they believe what I believe. But I just always took it like I have to do it for the young people. But to answer your question, I was the 12th principal of the school. Yeah.
And if I can make just one suggestion, similar to what Ron Clark does, because I know that he does sessions, like 4 times out of the year or 3 times out of the year, where groups of teachers can go and visit and learn from his staff and from him. And so maybe that might be something you might consider doing, because it seems like you guys have so many amazing treasures to share.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that's the plan. I think the goal was to get to become a 90-90 school first, but because we really want to be a positive deviant in the community. So our charter goal says 75%, and that's what, we want to open up, but I want to be the person that, honestly, just me, to say, look, we took a school from 17% to 75%. And there are schools like that, like the school in the Bronx, the Walton School in the Bronx. They're like 94%. And I'm like, and they came from the teens. So that's kind of where we are. That's one thing that COVID had hit us. We were on track to do 75%. Our numbers were showing, because we just want to be a proof point, because I'm just tired of people saying that our kids can't do it. They can learn to read. There's actually a science to it. And I think we have to make sure that our babies, it's sad that we have to use our babies to prove to adults that they can do it, but that's the world we live in.
Can you just kind of like enlighten us a little bit more just about what those first 6 months was like, taking over a school after somebody who wasn't fired, who didn't quit, but who passed away, and the impact that he made on that school? Can you talk to us a little bit about what that was like for you the first 6 months?
I would say the first 6 years, it was traumatic. I walked into a school community that was really grieving. It was very, very difficult. It was an emotional journey. I had to really, like I said, check my ego at the door and remember that the pain that people were feeling, number one, I didn't inflict it. And number two, that sometimes I was just a sounding board. I don't think 7.5 years ago, people were talking about therapy as explicitly and openly as they are doing so now. The resources weren't as readily available. So there was a lot of stabilizing and healing and support that needed to take place in this school community before I could even tackle what was happening in the classroom. So my math scores were dropping by 5% like every year. It was really important to me to get back in the classroom and focus on growing teachers and pushing students. But I had to shift and just remember who I am and be unapologetic in that approach. I think hiring teachers who are clear on your vision, who are really clear on your personality and what you expect as a leader is important. So, the culture in my school community was group interviews when I got here. And I did my best to sustain that, but I didn't really care about the questions that the teachers were coming up with. So, it was really important to me to think about, similar to what Travis said, was like, what are those questions that you can ask that give you a sense of who is going to be coming into your building?
But I heard you say something that I wanted to make sure that isn't missed to any of the principals who are here. You talked about really looking at instruction and deciding how much of your time you would devote to it and how much of the resources and the energy. So when you think about coaches, when you think about the cycle of coaching, how much time you spent in classrooms. So what I want to say to all the leaders, if you're looking to transform education, as the principal, 50% of your time should be spent on instruction. So don't post up in your office being important, walking around taking 77 meetings. Nope. If you're trying to change what teaching and learning looks like in your school, then you need to be about being in classrooms, being face-to-face with teachers for feedback, coaching, and evaluating. So I really am excited to hear you talk about that and how explicit it is. I didn't hear you mention that you were a showcase school and you were generous with your art. And so you let people come into your house. Leaders, don't be shady and hide what you're doing, all the dope things you're doing, and not share it with your colleagues who are up the street, downstairs, upstairs. Be generous with your art and your gifts and let people see, because it will ultimately benefit children. I cannot imagine coming behind someone who passed away who was loved, but I admire how you have honored his work. And so that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I completely forgot that we were a showcase school. So thank you for mentioning that. I mean, I do think it's important because at the time when that program was functioning, our proficiency rating was still very, very low. And I was very concerned about inviting people into our space. So I think being a showcase school at a time where I kind of felt a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, oh my gosh, we're not in the 70s, 80s or whatever with proficiency. I think it really did a lot for us as a school community. And it was a silent and strategic support for me to kind of continue to push the school community forward.
Travis, hold the phone.
Uh-oh.
I'm speechless. Like the submarine floor, the teacher's lounge, the welcoming entrance, cultivating joy in a school. If every principal could begin with cultivating joy, we would shift the experience for adults and children around learning. I'm so proud of you. I don't even remember that conversation fully, but when you said you can't be wrong and strong, I know I said that.
Yes,
because that is one of,
yes,
I know I said that. Mm-hmm. It's one of my mantras and my pet peeves. You can't be wrong and strong. You got to do one or the other, but you can't come and be wrong and strong. But thank you for sharing this. Thank you for acknowledging that conversation and what it meant to you all those years ago. In my head, Marissa and Rochelle were there because, those are my little sisters. And I think I helped them with lesson plans like 10, 12 years ago. I feel like I did. And talk a little bit, if you will, Travis, about, I want to hear more about your hiring process, because people think that retention is about parking and where your school is and the location, and it's not at all about that. And so I want to hear a little bit more about this talent and the retention.
Yeah, I think the first thing we had to, we learned to grill people at the interview process, right? So one of the things I realized is that if you look at organizations like Google, all these other things, we have to act like people are talent, So one of the things I stopped doing, I stopped grilling people and getting them to prove themselves. And I started learning about them and really opening myself up to saying, hey, tell me about the amazing stuff you want to do. Tell me about that. Tell me what you're going to knock on my door and beat down my door for, that you want to happen. And I'm going to hold you to that. So I'm asking them questions about what they're going to do. And then the process is like, I always speak to references, always. And I
Me too.
Always. But I want to know from people, I want to know the question, like, when this stuff gets really tough, what's going to happen to you? And I want to see through the process. Like, you got to show me that during the like over your life when that was tough, what happened to you? Who are you? I really try to get to know people. But the biggest question I ask people, especially veteran teachers, things like that, what's your data? What's your data? And if people can't tell me their data, I can't hire them.
I just wanted to give kudos to Travis. I would be remiss if I didn't have the opportunity to really just express, Travis, how proud I am of you in your work. And I know that before you partnered with Chancellor and working in your last organization, that you were a principal. I saw some alignment with sevens though. Like, you said you told the district to give you 7 years and each one of your tactics is 7 and you went from 17% to 75%. Niche Jackal can probably tell us what the significance of 7 is because she always tells us about the numbers, but I don't know like what all the alignment with sevens was, but
Lakina, 7 is completion.
Oh, okay. All right.
Completion.
And then 7, my mother has 7 kids also, so you got it.
All right, I know that's right. But just to everybody on the call, I just want to say that some things change, but some things remain the same, right? So where I definitely see like a different Travis, a more improved Travis, and you went into specifics in terms of how you grew yourself, right? But it's the same Travis that I remember at Chancellor in terms of, really supporting us with that work. Everything from Kagan structures and how to teach children how to become facilitators of the instruction and take ownership. I mean, teachers being facilitators, but students taking ownership of the learning, right? And how, those cooperative structures in classrooms can really enhance teaching and learning in the classroom. And so, I am still forever grateful for all of the strategies that you brought to Chancellor, even when you were with the other organization. And I'm just really super proud. Like, I agree with Hines in that, your school can really, be the model on this side of town, in terms of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. It is beautiful. It is phenomenal. But just knowing what I know about you, I wouldn't expect anything less, and Travis always just comes very even keeled, never like all crazy animated. But the knowledge is definitely there. And so I am highly impressed. And I know that my team had been trying to get over to the Bronx since you were Lighthouse Charter School and now, Faro. So we'll definitely get there. I think the snowstorm happened and then the pandemic hit and then just, whatever. But we're definitely coming. We are coming. Me and my team are coming. So I just want you to know that. And, I am just uberly proud. I think some of what you gave to me in your days at Chancellor helped me, when I took the seat here, because you started when I was a vice principal. And as a principal, I was able to move this school from the 2nd percentile to the 23rd percentile. And so we're still, pushing and working. And so kudos to you, Travis. And this is like really a proud moment.
I think what's powerful is to know that the same things that you can do in a charter school are the same exact things that you can do in the DOE schools too, right? I know there's challenges with money and stuff like that. I know the thing that I probably was blessed with was the fact that I had a charter school move into my building and they spent like $1 million, right? So I waited till they put that stuff up and I was like, yep, I want doors like that. I want floors like that. I want paint like that. And that's exactly what I did. And I used their money. And I created $1 million space in my building for my kids, because even though they're high schoolers and they were like a middle school, we can't have our kids walking in to a building seeing that, this school has all these things and they don't have access to it because, they'll cut off, don't walk past this line. They do that in some public schools too, where it's like, you're on my side of the building. But luckily I'm not on a campus school. But the good thing is that if you can find ways, if you have a custodian, which we know in the DOE is really good, custodians are also hard to find. But if you have a really good custodian, you treat them right. You like, look, I need you to paint some classrooms. I know you only can paint a certain number every year. Find a muralist, as you say, get somebody to hook up your lockers, paint your lockers. We got a High School Musical project going on. I told this lady who I do have a muralist if the guy is not, if he's not a DOE vendor, but it sounds like they are, then I do have somebody else. She's a young Black girl that came in and did our steps. I think some of y'all saw our, like the college steps.
but to come in and make the school building feel like a place where you want to live. But then it's not, it is the school culture because it makes kids feel good. But as Raevan, as you say, you have to focus when you first come into the school on the school culture, making people feel good about who they are in the building. But then also, all right, now we got the touchy-feely stuff out of the way. We're going to couple that and challenge it with the academic piece. So I just wanted to say, this is only my 5th year as a principal in the DOE. But I just want to say, I'm just really proud of you guys.